Hello lovers, welcome to the Butterfly Effect podcast hosted by myself, Lauren Amy. This is for those who are ready to take up space, who are living a soft life loudly and are ready to savor the sweetness in each moment. Here we're going to embrace transformation, the beauty of the in-between and the magic of becoming. So pull up a seat and listen in because life is delicious and it's about goddamn time we eat it up. I listened to a podcast this morning and the opening line, the first thing that she said was, I want you to start each morning like you've just been fucked. Now wait, before we do anything, notice the reaction. Notice what the response is. How do we feel in our body to that? Does it make us gasp? I can't believe you just said that? Do we feel uncomfortable? Do we want to shy away from it? Does it immediately want us to turn off from this podcast and switch to something else? Or does it turn you on? Does it think, oh, hang on. Is it like a moment where it's grabbed your attention, like you're being grabbed by the tit and be like, oh, okay, this is how we're starting our day. This is how we're kicking things off. Interesting. I heard this on this podcast episode and I immediately giggled. I was like, wow. And that giggle just broke the silence of my morning. And there's a couple of things I want to get into here. So this podcast that I'm referencing here is one of Florence Given's episode. Now, if you listen to any of her podcasts, I feel like me and her are basically saying the same thing in just slightly different fonts and, slightly different vocabulary. And I had a whole backlog of her episodes to listen to. And I thought I'd do a little binge this morning. And one of them that I listened to was basically the exact same as a previous episode of mine, but again, just a slightly different font, slightly different vocabulary, all about how life is flirting with you. And how, it's enticing you to flirt back, and you absolutely should flirt back. And I believe it was this episode that started in this way, that started with this suggestion of starting each morning like you've just been fucked. And I'm still giggling at it now, as you can tell, because it's somewhat of a shocking statement. And it's literally the first few words. You're like, oh my God, okay, wow, this is where we're at. This is what's happening here. And it immediately grabbed my attention. And this is why Florence does her job so well, because she grabs your attention in the best way. Now, you might hear that statement and think, oh God, that's a bit vulgar. That's a bit too much, rein it in. Whereas I'm sat here thinking, that sounds scrumdiddlyumptious. And she goes on in this episode to talk about, acting like you've just got lucky, which then spurred me on to, or then reminded me of this whole lucky girl mindset that I actually wrote on my vision board at the beginning of this year. So this binge of Florence Given's episodes has just spurred me on in a whole tangent this morning. I wasn't going to speak about this on the podcast. I knew I was going to record something today, but I was going to record about something entirely different. And I might get into that in a moment or so, but it's just really grabbed my attention, and it's all I've thought about for the past few hours. I even went to teach a class this morning and I was still thinking about it, wow. So it even it spurred me on to conduct my own little social experiment. But anyway, let's get back to it. So imagine, I'm going to say it again because it's worthy of repeating. Start each day like you just got fucked. Okay. Now, again, maybe this is something that we shy away from. And I just really want us to notice the reaction that statement has on you. Again, does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it make you gasp? Does it shock you? Does it excite you? Does it encourage you? Does it empower you? Because I think it's that reaction, that response, that's fascinating. Because when we're talking about pleasure, particularly female pleasure, suddenly it becomes this whole taboo subject. Suddenly it becomes something that we shouldn't talk about. And of course I'm gonna talk about it. Now, my own reaction, like I said, it's it made me giggle, and that giggle broke the silence of my morning. That's another thought that I'm gonna get onto in a moment or so. But the reaction it had in me, where I was just like, wow, the audacity she has in saying that, in just coming out with it outright, with no warm up, no foreplay, just going out with it outright. I was just like, that is incredible. And then because it spurred such a reaction in me, I was just like, do I want to bring this up on the podcast? Do I dare to say that on the podcast? And if you're listening to this, I mean, it turns out I do dare. I do dare to repeat this on the podcast because, again, it promoted or provoked such a response to the point that I'm still thinking about it now, hours later. And I'm just really interested to know what your guys' response is. How does that make you feel? Again, does it empower you? Does it entice you? Does it turn you on? Or does it make you feel uncomfortable? If you're still listening, if you haven't switched off yet, there's something here. Let's stick with this. Let's hold on to this. Let's linger in this moment as best as we can, okay? And maybe the feeling that statement gives you is that good, empowering feeling. So I'm just going to invite you to relish in that, okay? Really soak it up as best as you can. And if it's making you feel uncomfortable, sit with it. Notice it. Feel it. Where does it feel uncomfortable in your body? Where does it make you want to shrivel and kind of close off a little bit? Because that is where real information, real wisdom, real somatic knowledge lies. What is it we're feeling as a result of that statement? In this podcast, Florence then goes on to talk about, then acting like you just got lucky and like you're carrying like this little secret and that you've got this like smirk, this like smile on your face, knowing that you just had the most incredible night of your life and it's like kind of filtered into the next day and living life like that. And I was like, that's really interesting because in my experience, that has always been shamed. We literally talk about the walk of shame, right? And then it kind of spurred me onto this tangent, like how different that is for men and women, The walk of shame, again, is literally that real shameful thing for a woman to do. And like the image that's conjured in my head right now is there's a woman that's like, she's wearing the clothes from the night before. Maybe she's walking with her heels in her hand, mascara smudged underneath her eyes, her hair all knotted. That's the image that's conjured up in my mind, right? But then when I think about it from a male perspective, if you've watched Friends, there's this episode in Friends where Ross, I can't remember who he fornicates with the night before. Maybe it's Rachel, maybe it's someone else. I actually think it's who's the woman that he marries and says the wrong name at the altar? Julie? Maybe it's her? I don't know. But anyway, there's an episode, and I think it's at the end of the episode, where he's just skipping down the street. He's happy as Larry, and he doesn't have a care in the world. He doesn't have a care who sees. And there's these two like old ladies that whisper to each other, well, someone got some last night. Someone got lucky last night. He hears it, and Ross turns around, and he's like, haha, twice. And it's a really funny scene. It's a really funny episode. And it's like celebrated. So why is that celebrated for men and why is that not celebrated for women? Why is it called the walk of shame for women? And why is it the walk of fame for men? Again, interesting. Again, let that land. Let that sit for a second. So I suppose what this episode that I was listening to from Florence this morning has really spurred me on is like, let your pleasure, let your own enjoyment take up space. And the fact that when I heard that and I audibly giggled, and like I said, it broke the silence of my morning. Again, there's something to be said for letting your voice, letting your laughter, letting your breath be heard and letting it break up the silence. And I think this is particularly important for anyone that lives on their own, all right? Sometimes I've had it in the past where I will wake up one morning and I'll just mumble throughout my morning routine and I'll get to a class and I'll start talking. I'm like, wow, actually, this is the first time I've spoken today. And I've got a room of people in front of me and I'm only now using my voice. This is the warm-up for my voice. But ideally, my voice needed to be warmed up before, So I make it an actual habit, especially with living on my own. Even if I'm just like talking to myself or I'm talking like through my day, talking through my to-do list or I'm talking through, whatever it is, I'm cooking for dinner or like I'm singing along to music. You guys all know that I'm a big fan of singing to myself in the car on the way to class, because again, it lets my voice take up space, knowing that it doesn't necessarily need to be people to hear it, you know? It's funny, I actually remember my my dad maybe like almost taking the mick out of my mum as she'd be like going throughout her day, and she'd literally exactly what I said, she'd be talking through her to-do list, she'd be talking it out loud through to herself. And my dad would be like, why are you talking to yourself? And it's just my mum's way of, thinking things through and just outwardly expressing it. And I do the same. And I think actually there's something to be said for that, especially if you live on your own. Because, I don't know, perhaps it's easy to fall into the habit of literally not using your voice unless you're around people. And especially when I giggled, I laughed this morning when no one else is around me. That felt really joyous in the moment. I was like, this is nice, just having a little giggle, a little chuckle to myself. Then again, it reminded me of what Florence was saying. It's like, walking around like you've got this little secret, with that soft smile, that little smirk across your face, like you're listening to something amusing that no one else needs to know, it's just for you. It's that kind of feeling. Like no one else is around me. There's no one really to share this moment with, but nor does it matter, nor do I care about it. Again, I'm able to soak up this moment fully on my own and relish in it on my own, let it take up space, and know that it doesn't have to just exist and be enjoyed in silence. So again, there's so many interesting things that have happened in the past few hours. And I swear, what is the time? It's only midday. It's only midday, and I've had so many interesting downloads spurred on from this one initial statement from this podcast episode. And again, it just immediately grabbed my attention. And I know I said earlier, it's like it grabbed you by the tit. And again, that's another interesting phrase. You know how we say like life's like grabbed you by the balls, right? Again, that's a very, very like male reference. So it's like life has grabbed you by the tit. It's grabbed your attention, and it's like, okay, just gonna hold you there for a moment. And what's the response? Fascinating stuff early on this morning. God. Anyway, it spurred me into thinking of this lucky girl mindset. And this is something I put on my vision board at the beginning of the year. You might remember when I did that whole vision board episode, I've got a whole mindset section on my vision board where I want to remind myself of, how magnetic I can be, and I'm abundant, and all the possibility and potential I possess. And this just isn't just me, this is for you guys as well. You are also abundant, you are also capable, you also hold so much possibility and potential, you also can adopt this lucky girl mindset. And I just love where my vision board is this year. I love the fact that I've got it up on the wall, and sometimes I will literally just stand and stare at it because it's like directly in my eye line, and as the sun comes in the morning, it almost like lights it up. So I made a point this morning as I was listening to these podcast episodes was to again look at my vision board, see what I was drawn to. And again, there were so many words that were just really popping out. I've got so many just little catchphrases, little sentences, or just words that just radiate joy and empowerment. Like I've got recharge your glow, healing is the new luxury, be bold, feel like you again, let bold take hold, make it your year, the believer, just living my best life, golden hour, thriving. What is all of this for if not to be proud of it and to love it and be happy? Show your true colours. Put the joy back into your life. Transform. I could go on and on and on. Those are just a few words. Well, there were more than a few that are on my vision board. And it was just really lighting up for me this morning. So this lucky girl mindset, it's something that doesn't even have to be true in the moment, all right? And it really reminds me of the film Just My Luck with Lindsay Lohan. This is what I want us to adopt. I want us to be like Lindsay Lohan in the beginning of that film, maybe with a little less arrogance, because obviously that's the point of the film, right? But you know how she is just going about her day and things just fall into place, right? Again, that doesn't necessarily need to be true, all right? You might have one of those days where it feels like things are going just a little bit wrong, or like things are just getting in the way a little bit. And I'll get into my day in a moment, because again, I feel like it's a perfect example of how that mindset can almost be conflicting with actually what's happening. But if you like dig deep and make that, it's like an internal switch that you can consciously turn on, then that is what you radiate out into the world. So this morning, as I was then adopting this lucky girl mindset and just believing that everything is going to fall into place, there are so many things that didn't fall into place. Literally, as I'm driving to the studio, I'm hit by every single red light you could possibly manage. I got stuck behind a tractor at one point. Traffic was going really, really slow, and I was worried I was going to be late. But the entire time I was like, no, it's all right. It doesn't matter. And I put my music on, and I made sure I had a real good feel-good morning playlist on, and I'm singing, the sun is shining, and I'm like, I'll get there when I get there. I'll be ready. I know I will be. I know I'll pull it together. So what's the point in worrying? So even though things weren't exactly falling into place, especially in the same way that it's depicted in that Just My Luck film with Lindsay Lohan, right? It's almost like it's consciously choosing to trust, to place that faith in myself, in my own ability, and in the world around me, that things will come together, even though in the moment it seems like it's not. And again, it's those moments where you have to really dig your heels in and really put that trust and that faith in yourself, in your practice. And I feel like when you consciously choose this mentality, you then radiate it out into the world around you, okay? It encourages you to feel like whatever it is that you are putting out into the world, you will at some point receive that back. It might not be immediate, but it will happen at some point. And this then kind of prompted me to think about, well, I've been thinking about this a while, you might have heard this phrase about your information diet. You know, we are constantly consuming. We are constantly soaking up information, okay? Your body is literally this vessel of information that's then transmuted, that's then translated through various parts of the body, through your nervous system, through your circulation. Like, we're constantly absorbing and translating information. And we're constantly soaking it up, you know, literally through your eyes, your ears. Think about the senses, right? The things that you hear, okay? The things that you see, the things that you feel within your skin and in your body. You are constantly soaking up information. And I have been trying my hardest to be really conscious about what it is that I am welcoming in, right? So I've clocked fairly recently that I've got back into the habit of just mindlessly scrolling. And again, almost like filling the silence, filling the gaps, all right? And I think one of the reasons why I turned on these podcasts this morning was because, like, again, things were feeling really quiet and I just needed to fill the gap, to fill the silence with noise. But I made a conscious choice to choose something beneficial and inspiring and informative rather than just noise, rather than stuff that just doesn't really matter. And like, don't get me wrong, I do have my moments. I love a girly podcast. Like, I love the girls' bathroom when you just want a bit of girl talk and, you know, maybe we're complaining about, I don't know, some sort of situation, friend drama or boy drama. Like, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of that. Don't get me wrong, all right? But it's so easy to fall into the habit of just continuously overwhelming yourself with noise. So again, through this lucky girl mindset, what is it that I can then soak up? What can I consciously choose to soak up? What can I consciously choose to consume that's going to aid that mindset, that's going to facilitate that mindset even more so. So, and again, you can think about it through the senses, all right? So what is it that we can listen to now? Maybe it's this podcast in itself, maybe it's something else, maybe it's the uplifting music you can listen to that, again, just lifts your mood, lifts your spirits, or balances you out a little bit, calms your energy. Again, it doesn't always have to be up-regulating, it doesn't always have to be down-regulating, maybe it's just to balance you out. And then with your eyes, what are your eyes soaking up? What is it that you see around you? It's a gorgeous sunny day. It's a gorgeous sunny week. So soak up that blue sky. See the light reflecting off different surfaces. You know, you guys know I have this gorgeous disco ball in my living room I came through this morning, and there's like disco ball speckles everywhere. Just letting my eyes take that in. Seeing the light kind of dapple through the many plants I have on my windowsill. There's different shades of green. I bought myself a new bouquet of flowers over the weekend, and those roses have opened up in this real beautiful way. So again, letting my eyes soak up that. And this is like something we consciously have to train, right? Again, like what I said, how I've accidentally fallen back into the habit of just mindlessly scrolling. Again, it just goes to show that we do fall into these default patterns. We do then have to almost like catch ourselves and then train ourselves to search for the light, to seek out that light, to soak up what feels nourishing, what feels beneficial, rather than just consuming noise. And again, all the senses can come into play here, even like the clothing against your skin. Okay, choosing like that real soft material, or letting yourself feel the breeze against your skin. Feel the warmth against your skin. Taste can even come into play here. I went to the shops after teaching this morning and I just suddenly craved mango. Maybe it's because it's been Easter weekend and I've just eaten my weight in mini eggs, but I just really had this strong craving for mango. And obviously mango is that gorgeous like yellow color. So my eyes saw this bright yellow and I was like, yes, I want to welcome in. I want to eat that joy. I want to eat that bright light, you know. I want to literally eat and consume. It feels like I'm consuming the sun, you know, because it is that gorgeous yellow color. Yeah. So what else do we have? We've had scent, okay, smell, you know, lighting incense, freshly mown grass, okay. Even this is going to sound a bit strange, right? But I spent a little bit of time in the countryside this weekend walking through the woods and the farmland, and obviously all the farmland smells were out to play, and there was actually something really joyous about that, even though it's probably not a particularly nice smell, but there was something almost like homely about it. Opening up the windows, let that fresh air come in. Light some Palo Santo if you wish. Put your favourite essential oil in the diffuser. I think I've touched on all the senses there. If I've missed one, just let me know. But using the senses as a gateway, if you will, to enhance this information diet, to consume this nourishment, and to further aid you and facilitate you in this lucky girl mindset. It all comes into play. It all goes hand in hand. It all effortlessly flows one into the next. So whilst the intro to this podcast, it might have been somewhat shocking and not the direction you anticipated this episode going in, but it certainly grabbed your attention, didn't it? It got you listening, didn't it? It got you to stop and take a moment, didn't it? At least I hope it did, but yeah, it definitely did me. And anyway, again, this has spurred me on to this whole like social experiment of, again, continuing to consume consciously. And then I set myself the challenge of seeing if I can go throughout my morning just with this like soft smile across my face. Not necessarily as if I had that little secret, not necessarily as if I just got lucky the night before, but just with this open smile. And I knew I was going to do my food shop, and so I thought, right, let's try it out. Parked up, and let's see if I can walk around the supermarket, no headphones in, and just like smile my way through it. It doesn't have to be this kind of like overbearing, like bright smile, just like that soft smile across my face. And what happened? I walked into the supermarket, I completely forgot. I completely forgot, and I just went through the motions, even to the point where I didn't clock it till afterwards, but there was this cashier behind me helping me out with the self-checkout till, and I didn't really register her. I didn't really clock her, and I was like, that was so rude of me. All I needed to do would be like, oh, thank you. But I was just like so caught up and just like grabbing what I needed and getting out of there. I missed potential connections. And I got really annoyed at myself in that moment. It was like, Lauren, you set this social experiment and you failed it. You didn't do what you set out to do. And I was like, God damn it. But then I knew I was going to go into another shop. So I was like, okay, let's try again there. So I walked to the other shop and I did a little bit better that time. But I think it just goes to show that we have to consciously choose this internal switch to welcome in this lucky girl, this abundant mindset. We have to consciously choose to do things a little bit differently. Again, if we're feeling stuck or frustrated with the way things are, then consciously choose to do things differently in small, subtle ways. That's all it needs to be. And in practice at the moment, I am going to refer it back to our theme of integration. We've entered into a new theme for April, this integration where we're starting to fully embody what it is that we're hoping to achieve, what it is that we're hoping to feel, all right? And there's this whole concept that I'm slightly obsessed by, this whole idea of things being written by you, for you. And again, in that, as you're writing each moment for yourself, you are consciously deciding all the while. And it takes work, it takes commitment, and it takes disrupting the pattern, disrupting the default patterns that we always slip into. So again, if you're hoping to welcome in this lucky girl mindset, and if you want to start each day like you've just been fucked, turn on that switch within yourself. And again, it doesn't have to actually be true. Okay, it doesn't actually have to accurately reflect what's around you, but it's this internal switch that can then change our whole outlook and ripple out into the entirety of our day and change how your day plays out. Change how you move throughout your day, change how you receive each moment. And each moment that is offered to you is a gift in itself. So what is this moment offering you here? What are you being presented with right now? Maybe it feels slightly confronting. Maybe we're not sure how to feel right now because this podcast episode I know has taken many different kind of turns in many different directions. I get it, I know. But what is this moment offering you? And then just before we round things up here, what's the first thing you're going to do after listening to this episode? What are you going to do now? What are we going to take from this episode into the rest of our day, into whatever task you're heading towards next? What is it you're going to do now? How is it you're going to do it? How can we adopt that lucky girl mindset? And how can we walk through our day like we just got fucked? It's that conscious choice. And you have the power, the potential to make that conscious choice. And it's not always going to be easy and you will forget like I did earlier on. But the thing with choice is that you always get to make that choice. You always have a choice. All right. Thank you so much for listening, honeys. I know that was a real whirlwind. But I just wanted to grab the mic and talk today. That's all I wanted. Yeah. So I hope that landed. I hope that's inspired you. And thank you for sticking right the way through to the very end. And yeah, I love you. Go thrive. Go be that lucky girl that you are. All right. Bye, honeys. Mwah! All right, stunners, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. I hope it has left you feeling suitably inspired. And as always, please don't forget to rate and review, like and subscribe, all those lovely things, as not only does this help the podcast grow, but it also helps us to reach more beautiful souls who need to hear these conversations. And of course, come hang out with me over on Instagram and TikTok at LaurenAmyYD, and follow the pod at butterflyeffect.pod. You can also dive deeper into yoga, meditations, poetry, and so much more with me over on Patreon. Until next time, keep living a soft life loudly because you know you deserve it, and I'll see you in the next episode. Mwah!